After a week out for both Nitro and Ric Flair, both returned to open the show with Flair arriving to the building with his family before starting a show-long angle with Vince Russo sending security to kidnap them from the limousine, while Nitro was back to its original 8 p.m. start time after being moved an hour earlier last Monday to cut some of the momentum of the last few weeks of increasing numbers, opening with new WCW champion Nash and Scott Steiner cutting a promo on Russo and Bischoff trying to retire the Millionaires Club, saying that besides him and Steiner there's another guy currently in Orlando looking to take out Russo when he returns, referring to Scott Hall, before introducing Ric Flair in his first promo since legitimately collapsing at the Thunder taping 2 weeks back, saying that he went down for unknown medical reasons but he got it fixed and ready to return, hyping his upcoming pay-per-view match against David and Russo before Nash handed him back the WCW title, saying that he never lost it in the ring, bringing out Jeff Jarrett to set up the two top matches for tonight, with Nash in a handicap match against Rick Steiner and Tank Abbott along with the main event title rematch of Flair vs Jarrett, with Nitro opening with the Big Star Power segment after a week out, starting with its highest rated opening segment in a month, 3.1 rating. Flair, who was all over the show in segments trying to find his family along with him already set to wrestle in a main event title match, commented on his medical issue on Thunder last Tuesday, saying that he lost balance twice before notifying referee Charles Robinson that something was wrong and he can't stand, saying that he went to a doctor for a new procedure which fixed his inner ear problem in less than 2 hours and is ready to return to the ring in a few days as opposed to taking 5 weeks out when he had similar issues in '92. Nitro entered the final quarter of the first hour with a Booker vs. Mike Awesome match going 3 minutes, which saw Page interfering for the finish, with the big talking point of the night for WCW taking place 10 minutes from 9 p.m. with Hulk Hogan arriving and walking to the building while the Goldberg monster truck arrived behind him seconds later, and after weeks of hype with the announcers saying that it might be Goldberg driving, Goldberg showed up in a surprise appearance, making his TV return after 5 months, with the crowd buzzing as he was walking to the building as a cliffhanger before the final commercial break to the top of the hour. Timed exactly at 9 p.m. as the Raw opening started, Bill Goldberg walked out with the building exploding in one of WCW's biggest crowd reactions of the year, taking out Rick Steiner in his first appearance back from injury since almost losing his arm after smashing a limousine window in December, and after months of hype finally confronting Tank Abbott to set up his return match, challenging Abbott to officially book the match for next Monday from the Phillips Arena in Goldberg's hometown and WCW's home base of Atlanta, before walking out of the building and driving away, with the Goldberg appearance due to being unadvertised and only being on screen for 3 minutes out of the 15-minute quarter, unable to boost numbers significantly, with Nitro opening with a 2.6 rating. With the WWF selling out every building in the US in record time, it was the same in Canada, with Raw on May 29 coming in front of over 15,000 people in Vancouver, starting with Undertaker opening Raw for the first time since his return in the American Badass gimmick, interrupted by the McMahon-Helmsley faction before saying a word, with Triple H and Vince McMahon thanking Taker for his interference in the Iron Man match which cost Rock the title last Sunday, trying to turn them against each other, with Taker saying that he's coming after the belt as Hunter responded that things have changed since he was gone, bringing out Rock to a massive ovation for his first confrontation with Taker since losing the belt just as Goldberg left the building on TNT, ending up with Vince booking Rock vs. Taker for the main event and perhaps the biggest possible match currently in the WWF to open Raw with a 5.4 to 2.6 rating margin. After arriving earlier on a gasoline truck, Nitro's second quarter picking up over 300,000 viewers to a 2.8 rating saw the continuation of a Vampiro vs Terri Funk hardcore match going back to the parking lot, ending up with Vampiro looking to set Funk on fire and blow up the parking lot before Sting made the save in the build to their Inferno match in 13 days, followed by a Page skit being kicked out of his house with Kimberly filing for divorce. While at the same time Raw also jumped over 500,000 viewers for the finish of the opening segment with Rock and Taker setting up their first singles match in almost a year, along with the Godfather and Malenko vs Saturn and DLO tag match going 4 minutes. With Nitro coming from the E-Center in Salt Lake City, Utah, the last NBA regular season MVP Karl Malone, who was sitting in the front row throughout the show, made the save for Page to a big reaction from the home crowd to lay out Mike Awesome with a diamond cutter, coming 2 years since teaming up with Page against Hogan and Rodman at the Bash at the Beach 1998 event in what was and still is the second biggest pay-per-view in company history, followed by a Scott Steiner vs Shane Douglas US title match in the Asylum cage going 3 minutes with Steiner going over to retain, while at the same time Raw entered the 6 rating range for the first time on the night with Kurt Angle vs Eddie Guerrero going 4 minutes for the European title, while throughout the night had several comedic segments of Edge and Christian with Kid Rock's Josie to hype his appearance coming up with him set to perform Undertaker's new entrance song in the building. Sting vs Kidman opened Nitro's final quarter going 3 minutes before Vampiro and Hogan ran in for the post-match angle of Vampiro and Bischoff setting Hogan's red and yellow shirt on fire as a build to his career on the line match at the Great American Bash, with Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett making their entrances at 9:58 p.m. about to cross over the top of the hour. As with the WCW title changing hands numerous times in the last few weeks including twice on the night, Vince Russo responded to the constant title changes saying that the days of one wrestler holding the belt for over 6 months to make it mean something are in the past and don't make sense in the TV-driven wrestling industry of the year 2000, saying that every week a title could change hands as logically anyone who holds the belt today defends it close to a dozen times a month on 2 weekly primetime TV shows along with house shows, making the long title reigns a thing of the past with competition for places at the top higher than ever, and while saying that Raw's final match of the first hour saw a title change with Too Cool beating Edge and Christian to win the tag belts, closing the opposed hour with a 2.6 to 6 rating margin. Ric Flair vs Jeff Jarrett in the main event for the WCW title with both David Flair and Vince Russo as special referees went 8 minutes with Flair in his first match back popping the crowd big fighting back against everyone at ringside to almost have the match won before Jarrett laid him out with a guitar shot to win back the title to major heat, with the match going 10 minutes and the overrun gaining over 700,000 viewers to a peak 3.1 rating. With Nitro overall rebounding back after the time slot change of last week back into the 3 rating range heading into one of the biggest Nitros of the year next Monday in its home base of Atlanta. Going against the Nitro Overrun Raw crossed over 10 p.m. with a Shane McMahon vs Rikishi King of the Ring qualifier match going 3 minutes with Triple H at ringside to end with Rikishi advancing to the pay-per-view after a DQ with Shane and Hunter laying out Rikishi for the finish. As the quarter, which featured the Shane-Rikishi match, opposed Flair vs Jarrett, followed with the last 5 minutes unopposed for the entrances and start of a 6-man tag match, Raw picking up to a 6.5 rating to start the second hour. With Nitro off the air at 10:10 p.m., Raw's first full unopposed quarter with the end of the Jericho and Hardys vs Test and Albert 6-man tag, a Rock interview hyping the main event, and a Chris Benoit vs Hardcore Holly IC title match, Raw picking up over 700,000 viewers to enter the 7 rating range for the first time on the night, while staying near that for the rest of the show, as Benoit and Holly went 4 minutes in a stiff match that saw Benoit working as a babyface for the first time in his WWF run, with Holly cutting a heel promo on the Canadian crowd. Meanwhile, the company announced during the week that Rock signed a contract extension that will run through 2005, extending his original 5-year contract signed in '98 by 2 years, including a higher guarantee to match his elevated status since then as the biggest star in the industry, not taking any risk of a possible mega WCW offer when getting into the last year of his previous deal in 2002. Raw's final quarter started with a Kid Rock live performance singing the New American Badass song, followed by Undertaker entering to it moments later, with Taker and Rock making their entrances at 10:55 p.m. for the main event, with Vince coming out to make it a lumberjack match, as after advertising it for almost the past 2 hours, Rock and Taker were about to start before jumping out of the ring to take out the faction, with the company not giving away the match on TV. But the tease of it still led to strong results, as the final quarter and Overrun jumped over 1.1 million viewers to peak at a 7.7 rating, ending with Kane returning to set up 3 title contenders chasing the belt on the way to the King of the Ring pay-per-view.